Tammy.
Tim and Tammy. Why am I not hearing anybody?
We should be live streaming now.
Calling the special meeting to order November 17th, 2023 at 2 p.m.
Why am I not hearing anybody?
We should be live streaming now.
Ms. Davis, can you mute your microphone because we're picking it back up through the live stream? Ma'am, can you please mute your microphone?
I think okay.
Perfect.
To the JCHD Health Department Board of Trustees meeting, we're having difficulties, but we're going to persevere and move through as we can. So I'm calling this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mr. Pig,
In here.
Mr. Beal,
Here.
Here.
Dr. Henry,
Here.
Ms. Davis.
Here.
Quorum has been established. Mr. Deal, would you please read the mission and vision and purpose, please, sir?
Mission of the Jefferson County Health Department is to champion positive health outcomes and behaviors through innovative programs and community engagement. The vision of the health department is advancing the health and safety of Jefferson County. And the purpose of the health center, as written in the revised Missouri statutes, is the Jefferson County Health Department is established, maintained, and operated for the improvement of health of all inhabitants of Jefferson County.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deal. Next order of business is approval of the agenda. I need a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
First, I have a second. Having first, second, is there any discussion? Not hearing any. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Oops. Any opposed? Sorry. All right, motion carries. Next on the agenda is welcome to guests. We have them inside here. I'm not sure if anybody's viewing it online, but we're gonna move on. There's no old business. The new business, the first part of this is act on recommendation to select Gilmore and Bell as board counsel for the building project.
Sorry, bond council.
Bond, what did I say? Bell?
Board.
Board, I'm sorry, bond counsel. Thank you. So I need for us to have this presented. Can I have a motion to approve?
The recommendation to select Gilmore and Bell as bond counsel for building project.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a first and second. Who is going to present on this? Is that you, Ms. Vollmer, or is that who's presenting this information?
I'm gonna ask Christy, do we go through the scope of engagement or is this? And I apologize.
Actually, Mr. Pig, you may want to actually table the vote on this till after executive, and I'm happy to share the engagement letter that has the terms of it with the board and executive, but that's privileged communication. I don't want to put it up on the screen in the open session, but it does outline the scope of the services to be performed by bond counsel. So we want to table the vote on this until after the discussion is had in executive session.
Okay. Motion.
Do we table that or?
Yeah, we're gonna table, but I need to move your motion and I'll table.
I move to remove my motion to open for this recommendation of Gilmore and Bell as well.
Yes, essentially what we're doing is we're putting item number 1 under action item on moving that over till after executive session.
Can I ask a question? So I'm a little confused. So are we doing bonds as part of the process? It looks like we're having a loan done. So I'm just,
It's part of the process that we have to do as a public entity.
so we will have bonds.
I don't believe it's a bond I'm aware of.
It's not, and Kristen can correct me if I'm mistaken on this, it's not bonds, but the bond counsel prepares the legal paper outlines. So the bond counsel prepares the paperwork and makes sure that all of the, that we're eligible for everything that we're supposed to be able to do, and all of the legal pieces are in place for the bank.
Council, is there any of the other two that need to be tabled until after?
No, sorry, and that's on me. I apologize. I should have caught that.
That's right. Just want to make sure before I proceed. Okay, so the next, number 2 is act on recommendation to approve loan terms for the building project. Can I have a motion for that, please?
I make motion to accept the recommendation to approve the loan terms for the building project.
I have a second.
Second.
I have a first and a second. We will take questions in a minute, but I want the presentation first. So who is that Kirsten? You have the floor.
Oh, do I?
Hold on, before we start, everybody please hold your questions until Kirsten's done with her presentation, please, okay? Thank you. Go ahead.
Oh, goodness. I didn't prepare anything formal. Let me look. So am I just doing the one that I'm recommending, or am I talking about all 3 banks?
Well, why don't you go ahead and go through, just give everybody the process that you went through, and who you talked with. Don't have to get specifics on that, but the 3, and just kind of go through that process that was going through by the group.
Okay, so we reached out to 3 different banks, Enterprise Bank and Trust, Midwest Regional Bank, and First State Community Bank, to help us get a loan, or to provide a loan to us. We met with them a couple of times, and I've been in contact quite a bit with all 3 of them. And I'm not really sure what all to say about it.
If you want,
2 of them would like. Go ahead, Kelly.
I was gonna say, if you want, it's just basically that we've gone through the process. You've been reaching out and speaking with them individually, providing the information in terms to make the decisions, and then they were each invited in to discuss what they would propose as far as a type of loan, and what kinds of conditions were set forth for that. So Kristen had set up meetings with each of the individual banks, and I'm not sure if you have the paperwork. That's why I just was wondering, do you have the paperwork in front of you for the loan paperwork from the letter?
The commitment letter, we did receive a loan commitment letter from First State Community Bank. It is for a lease purchase financing for the new facility. Does everybody have that paperwork in front of them as well?
That's paperwork. We need to put that up on the screen.
Yes.
It's well, we should be able to. Well, is it all right if we put that on the screen, Christy?
Are you talking about the 1-page or the 3-page summary?
No, I'm talking about the actual letter from the State Community Bank.
You can. I think it may also be helpful to put the 3-page summary up there as Kristen is going through kind of the 30,000-foot overview. That summary makes a really good kind of visual aid of what those terms were.
If you need anything, Kristen, just let me know.
Let's see. I'm not really sure what all to include in all of this. The terms for all of them are the same. It's a $9.7 million project. We're putting 20% cash down. The finance portion would be 7.8 million. It's an 18-month construction period. After the 18 months, with interest only payments, after the 18 months, it's converted to a permanent loan. Closing costs are going to be rolled into the see.
As far as the differences between the,
That's not my, I think it's somebody else's dog barking. It's not me.
David, can you please mute?
You can hear that?
Yes,
You have it on mute.
You're not.
You're not on mute.
now you are.
Can we put that on, can we put that on?
I'm sending it in right now.
Okay.
Let's see.
Yeah.
So two of the banks came back wanting to do the lease purchase process, which is why we need the bond counsel. And that's tax exempt, so it's to make sure that we're in compliance with the tax exempt status of that loan. The two banks were Enterprise and First State Community Bank that can do that. The big difference between the two, well, there's two big differences between those. One is how soon we can get the loan. Enterprise, they don't see a start date until January 1st, after January 1st. First State Community Bank can move faster than that. I don't have an actual go date, but we do have the commitment letter. The second difference is the closing cost. Enterprise estimates it'll be about $100,000 for closing costs, and First State Community Bank says $35,000, which is just the cost of bond counsel.
Another piece of that was the phase 1 study.
Oh, the phase 1. Yeah, the phase 1 Enterprise would want us to do that again. And First State Community Bank says that what we have is sufficient.
It's cost savings.
Correct. I think the timeliness of the ability to implement the loan, as well as there's a dramatic difference in closing costs that were proposed by the individual banks. And again, same with Midwest Regional Bank, the estimate for closing costs was around 100,000. And as far as not having to pay for a phase 1 study that we've already completed. And then as well, I believe that First State Community Bank was looking at our the actual structure, the new building as the collateral for the loan, whereas there were additional appraisals that would need to be done for some of the other banks at additional costs. Is that a fair estimate, Kristen?
Yes.
And your recommendation is go with First State Community Bank.
Mine is yes. I believe the exec team is with me on that.
Yeah, yes.
Just bear with me 1 second. I'll get this up there.
Can we talk about some terms now?
I'm sorry, Ms. Davis.
Could we ask questions now?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. The terms on the loan would be for 20 years. Is that correct? It's a construction loan. So then would we be refinancing once it's complete, or would it just be interest only? I guess it's going to have a lot. So first of all, is it interest only until we're complete?
You said that.
Yes.
Yes.
It's interest only during construction period. Yes.
And then the interest per month will run us approximately how much?
Well, I'm looking at the terms they have on here. There's two options to go with. Option 1 is a 6.41% for 5 years at a fixed rate. Option 2 is 6.61% for 10 years at a fixed rate. And then after those first year terms, we would have to reset it.
It's a pretty high interest rate. I'm wondering why they wouldn't give us a little bit better break in the price, because it's such a large loan anyway. They're still going to make a lot.
So this is the tax exempt rate. The rates right now are not all that great across the board for mortgage loans and all of that.
So they've got us, correct me if I'm wrong, at around 6.4 to 6.6 interest
Yes, ma'am.
rate, amortized 10-year. Now, what would that payment be per month approximately, interest only?
So I don't know that information. It's whatever you've drawn down is what the interest would be, and that would be what you'd be paying on.
So, so the first few months, it's not so much. And then as you get more complete, more close to completion of the project, you're at the max per month, which would be what we're looking at. So let's say the max, what would the max be? 8,000 a month payment, 10,000, 50,000 a month payment. What kind of payment are we looking at?
I mean, I don't have an amortization schedule in front of me. I would assume it'd be about 50,000 a month.
Okay. And so then the next question is, according to, what would we be doing for our down payment? Mr. Pig, are we going to liquidate some things that we have that aren't doing too well?
Well, I would defer to Ms. Palmer and Christian on that. Where those dollars be pulled from, but I'm sure it's in some of our cash that we have in some of our investments.
Correct. We would go into our reserves and our trust and work with Enterprise Bank on which ones to liquidate to make more liquid.
So they would be asking for a minimum of $35,000 down from us, correct?
No, 20% down. 35 is the closing cost.
Oh, closing cost was 35,000. I gotcha. So 20% is what? I don't have my calculator. Guess I do right here. So we will be liquidating at least 20% of our investment so that we can put an ample down payment. I would say liquidate as much as you can. Anything that's not performing. It save us in the long run rather than, if it's performing less than 6.4 or 6.6%, we need to liquidate it and put it down on this new building. We can always build it.
Well, we will for the down payment.
Right.
And but we're not going to go into doing anything else because, like I explained to you, it is always better to use other people's money than your own money, because you want to keep your own money as tied up with making money for you and in there so you can have it for emergencies in case something happens. You don't want to liquidate, all your assets to defer to build something. I mean, I've never done that in any of the houses that I've built or anything else that I've done. I borrow money and use the bank's money.
I get that.
So the cash to be paid down is 20% of the total cost of the project. That doesn't mean we're going to liquidate 20% of our assets to pay that, because it's a different amount.
We're not liquidating our assets like our buildings or anything that we own. We're liquidating, bonds and things that are invested into papers, that's not performing at 6%. It doesn't make sense to keep something for under 6%, but then pay somebody else 6%. That's a bad investment. So that's what I'm saying. We can always.
Feeling I've had.
And that way we would be making money for the health department.
Is there any other questions or points you have?
So we determined the interest only at its highest point will be approximately 50,000 a month. Interest rate approximately 6.6 to 6.4 to 6.6%. And then did we say that we would get it refinanced once it's completely built at a lower interest rate?
I mean, I don't know if it'll be a lower interest rate at that time. It depends on where the interest rates are in the market at that moment.
It's going to go from a construction loan to a conventional loan.
Right.
We won't know any of this,
Sure.
So when you're dealing with loans, you will not know any of this until the closing date. All the exact figures we'll know at closing date with what the actual interest is, what our amortization table is going to be. We'll know that at the closing date. So it's like anything else. when you close, and that's what the numbers are.
Right.
Good
So,
for that.
you know, maybe we'll get lucky in the long term, you know, when it's all said and done, we can refinance. It might be at a lower interest rate by then, but, we can't be guaranteed that. I get that. What else I wanted to say was that, are we, able to handle a $50,000 a month payment without a problem?
If
I
you
have
remember, that was
included-
put into the budget.
Yes, I included in this year's budget. It was part of that preliminary budget that everybody voted on last month. It's still in there. And I also included it last year in our 23 budget for half the year. So yes, we can make the payment.
Super. I'm excited. This is great.
So thank you, Mrs. Davis. Amber, do you have any questions?
No, I do not.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Deal?
Is there any penalty for early payment of the loan?
So there is, for that option 2, where you'd have that 10-year fixed rate, there is a no prepayment allowed for that first 5 years.
Ooh.
You
Maybe
get
we
into
can
that anyway. We wouldn't be getting into that.
remove that.
We can't preclude that.
I'm sorry, I missed that. Okay, so, and I'm sorry, I'm not clear. So when construction's completed, it'll resort to a conventional loan,
There'll be out construction.
which will last, what'll be the time frame on that? We're talking 20 years?
So yes, we would be doing 20 years total after the initial construction period.
Unless we pay off sooner, I mean, obviously.
Well, but it says we can't.
Well, if we go with
Not-
option
Option
2,
2, option 1, you can't.
Okay, I'm sorry.
You have the ability to, it's just on option 2, that it's not allowed in the initial 5 years. So in the first 5 years of your loan, you're not allowed to prepay it back.
But after that, you can. So one of the things we need to decide is which option to accept.
I think we should try to get them to negotiate with us on that prepayment option.
It's just a 5-year moratorium. Okay, it's only a 5-year moratorium. Read the document. It's no prepayment allowed for the initial 5 years on that option 2. We're not gonna be able to pay it off in that initial 5 years.
Well, we could refinance it at say it dropped down like it was before, 2-3%. We can find somebody to refinance us at 3%. Look at the money we'd save if we could, hurry up and do that, say 3 years from now.
We had 2 options. We go with,
We don't want to be stuck in the 5-year no prepayment penalty, unless it's not that much. I think they would negotiate with us to get our loan, because that's a nice loan for them.
Well, actually, the option 2, they had already discussed with me that's fixing the rate for 10 years is the reason why they have that no prepayment in the initial 5 years, so that you don't go and refinance somewhere else.
So what we're looking at is a recommendation or an improvement to the board. Which option the board wants to go with and which to the board with.
Right. Well, they're looking out for their interests and we're looking out for ours. So I would say try to negotiate on just that one point. Let us prepay it if we can.
well, if we go,
Maybe we would take it back out with them again, but the interest rates drop down to 3.5%, and then they can refi it at 3.5%. They'd still have the loan, but we'd save a bunch of money.
Mr. Chair.
yes, ma'am.
So just so, Ms. Davis, so what you may wind up doing if you try to lower down that 5-year moratorium is that they may say, that's fine, then we're only going to agree to fix your rate for 8 years. And after that, we can adjust it up. So that's the consideration. It's yeah, you don't get to pay it off in the first 5 years, but you're guaranteed that your rate's not going to go up in that first 10. As opposed to if you wanted to pay it off sooner, that's fine, but you only get that safety net for 5 years and it could go up during that, after that 5 years. I think your operating assumption that interest rates are definitely going to go down, and that's not a guarantee.
No. So, Mr. Deal, you have any other questions on that?
So do we have a recommendation on which option to go with?
Go look to you, Kristen.
So I'm more of a conservative person. I personally like a fixed interest for 10 years, but that is really up to the board, which one is more their comfort level.
I would personally go for something that's not so committed, because if the interest rates go down, then we can refinance and save over half of our interest, which would be great.
If we take a look at our economy right now, I don't see interest rates going down in the next few years. With the way the economy is.
If you go by trends, you know, they've been as high as what, and you know, they've been as low as 2.5. So
Again, I want to point out on option 2, Ms. Davis, that it's only for 5 years that there's a moratorium. In other words, you can't do anything for the first 5 years with that loan. And I don't see that much risk out there, because I can't see it flipping over and dropping that quick and going down. It just, in fact, they've been going up. So the trend is remarkably almost vertical. And I'd have to defer to our comptroller, because she deals with the money all the time. Is there anything else? I'm sorry.
What's the 5% floor? That's as low as it will go or can go?
There you go.
Kristen?
You know what? I do not know the answer to that, actually. I would have to ask the bank that one.
Okay.
By the way, guys, if you're going to pick between option 1 and option 2, so this is actually going to be like a 3-part vote. You have to pick the lender and then have a second vote for which option you're going to want to take.
Okay. All right. That would be my guess, Dennis.
Which again, does not appear to me to be, it's likely to go below that in that period of time anyway.
The interest rates were
Right.
unbelievably low for a while. I mean, that was crazy.
Yeah.
Hey, Ms.
Yes.
Siddons, do you have any questions?
I guess my only question, Kristen, you can probably answer. So the 6.6, if we go with option 2, they can't raise it, like, once we finish the construction part, then we go into like the actual loan part. And what if during that 10 years, say we do see a drop, say to 3%?
then we're stuck.
We're only stuck for the first 5 years. If it's year 6,
That's what I want to make sure. So 5 years regardless, we know for the next 5 years is at 6.6%, no matter what. And then if it
Yes.
drops after 5 years, we can refinance at a lower rate.
yes.
Okay.
The option 1 gives us more leeway that way, Tammy, for what you're saying. And option 2 does not. We're kind of stuck for,
It's
because
both
they're
are
saying
5 years.
a
Both are
10-year.
for 5 years. Even though it says a 10-year fix, we're only locked in for 5 years. If you read the whole thing, we just can't prepay, but I don't think in the next 5 years that we're gonna be making any extra payments as we're trying to adjust to this payment. And if the interest rate, so both, I mean, now that you said that, Kristen, I'm liking option 2 and I see why. We're at 6.6, and then if it does drop in 5 years, even though we're locked in, if it goes up in 5 years, we're not paying, we're protected. But if it goes down in 5 years, we can refinance. So that makes a lot of sense to me now. So thank you.
So on option one, does it say at the most it could go up 2.5% at the most after 5 years? Is that what it says? So I honestly, I've built, buildings and always get a construct at the end of the construction. I always get a permanent loan when I'm done. And, that's a horribly high interest rate to begin with. And I always look forward to completion of the project so that I can get a fixed rate loan for that project. And we're sticking our neck out on the line and saying, hey, we'll give you 6.61% for 10 years. After 5 years, okay, you're saying we can refinance without a penalty, but we should automatically have that. We should, it should just be a construction loan. And then when we're done with the total construction, we get it appraised, and hopefully the market prices are better at that time, and we refinance it and get a whole better deal, period. Not be stuck with all these are pretty stringent terms.
Mr. Chair.
Ms. Davis, I appreciate your viewpoint. You've never probably dealt with anything over $1 million. So I'm gonna have to.
No matter if it's $1 million or 100,000, it's still the same concept.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
We're gonna lose that much more at those
We're
dollars.
not. Okay, well, if we go with option one and in 5 years, the interest rate goes up to 8%, guess what happens?
We
The
still
same thing
have.
on the other side that you're worried about. Now we're really gonna be paying.
We still have
Fine.
other options
And
with
that's-
other lenders at
And
that
that's
time.
fine.
We'll get a
Ms.
refund.
Stidham, excuse me, Ms. Davis, you've had your time. Ms. Stidham, is there anything else you have on your thing?
Okay.
Ms. Coleman, is there anything you have on yours? I'll get you in a minute.
No,
You're good? Okay. Steve, is there anything you want to chime into? Or are you hiding?
No, I think Kristen covered it pretty well. And
Okay.
I mean, this is a lease type loan as well, since we're a government agency. It's not like a conventional loan that an individual would take out. So there is some difference between this and what an individual would do.
Ms. Bowler.
I just wanted to speak.
Okay, call the question.
The builds, because we are a tax exempt agency, and the way that this loan is structured, we actually are getting a lower interest rate because they're not taking on as much with having to do the tax pieces with it, the extra work. So I believe that we have been given a really good option in terms of the interest rates that have been put before us, and that they have been pretty fairly, equal.
Can I have a question?
Yeah.
So when you walk in, you don't just go into the bank and say, okay, I want to build an $8 million building. What's an interest rate? Like, they have to go through all the paperwork first to even shoot. So I don't know if you heard that, Ms. Davis, but it's not like you can just walk in and then give you an interest rate when you're wanting to build an $8 million building. They just don't shoot you a rate. They have to go through all of the legal jargon and the paperwork and the tax exempt and the government agency to even come up with a percent like that. And if you didn't hear, all of them came around the same percent after they've gone through all the paperwork. So I don't think shopping around anymore, or it's not for the fact that they didn't go out and look for the best interest rate, because they're all about the same.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and ask that we split the motion as was recommended by Ms. Coleman. So if I could have a motion to accept First State Community Bank as our lender for this project, could I have a motion for that, please?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
1 second.
All right, having first, second, is there any further discussion? Not hearing any, let's have a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Pig,
Yes.
Mr. Deal,
Yes.
Ms. Stidham,
Yep.
Dr. Henry,
Yes.
Ms. Davis.
No.
Okay. Motion carries 4-1. Now I need a motion to accept option 1. No, correction, option 2, as presented from First State Community Bank. Do I have a motion for that?
So the motion is,
Is to accept option 2.
okay. Yes, I move that we accept option 2. The interest rate for the First State Community Bank.
Do I have a second?
Yeah, second.
First, second, is there any further discussion on that?
Mr. Chairman? Option 2, just for everybody listening that can't see with the screen, option 2 says 6.61% at 10-year fixed rate, resetting to 5-year FHLB advance plus 2.15% every 5 years thereafter. No prepayment allowed for the initial first 5-year term, 20-year maximum amortization. And so I'm just going to say that I believe we can get a much better deal, but I know time is of the essence with this whole project. And so, you know, I'm in the minority here. I get that. But I believe if we were through these terms out right here to about 4 or 5 more lenders, we'd get some pretty cool offers. Save ourselves a bunch of money. Might maybe table it to the next meeting, try that. But that's my suggestion.
Let me just point this out. Let me
right here, instead of voting on it today, tabling it next month, vote on it. But I bet you get.
That's already your MO, is you want to table everything. I'm gonna point out to everybody in the community that not every bank is going to lend money for this type of project. We're an entity, you know, a public entity. This is one of the few banks that will do it. Some of your local banks won't do it. We invested and looked into Midwest, and Midwest was, you know, really didn't know quite how to handle this. And so we knew right away that they had not done these things. So there's only a certain amount of banks that will do this that are comfortable doing it. So saying that you can go to any lender and get this, that's not necessarily appropriate.
That's not what I said, Mr. Pig. I said take what this offer is right here and put it out to you know, maybe even put it out for a bid on in the newspaper and say, you know, we're looking for bids, you know, that can make a better deal than this to us.
We've
And
already
either we
done,
get it or we
we've
don't.
gone through the process.
We already did that, Miss Davis. We already went through this process.
I don't remember seeing bids put out in the newspaper or anything like that. All I know is that we had a committee that talked about it. Not really bids.
Actually, it was the executive team that went out and contacted the banks for this loan.
Well, they contacted those banks.
Right.
I'm saying.
I have a first and second during other discussion. So this is to accept option 2. Yes, ma'am.
On the 5-year advance, is that the 2.5%? Is that mean what does that mean exactly? That they can't go up more than 2% if the rates go up after our 10-year fixed rate? What does that in parentheses mean?
You know, I'm not 100% sure. I apologize. I can contact the bank and find out. Not 100% sure.
When you're resetting, I would, and the assumption, but the 5-year rate would be whatever the rate was plus 2%. But I would go on to percent to double check. So it would be just as you would be looking at any other loan in terms of setting at that particular time. The bank does. Would be a portion.
I just realized that I'm not gonna do. or option one. So it's both of them would have that, no.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr.
I know you're wanting to get this done, but you know, I mean, if we can save a bunch of money, you know, why wouldn't we want to table it and just take what we've got here that's been recommended and put it out to a few more lenders and say, hey, can you beat this deal that they're offering us? You know, we're not married to any of these banks. You know, we're about, you know, what's the best deal we can get for our health department. And see what we can do. And you know, what would it hurt to wait another 30 days? It's not like we're trying to break ground tomorrow.
Ms. Davis, did you not hear that all the other banks had the same interest rate?
Not all the other banks.
The
Yeah,
other
they
banks,
spoke to about three,
they contacted you or not?
whatever.
Bank
But
they
there's still more
contacted-
banks than that
bank
out
they
there.
contacted, the other bank they contacted had same rates. Did you not hear that?
Did they contact Farmers and Merchants Bank? I'm sure there's a lot of small local banks that would love to have a chance at this loan. I'm just saying.
Executive
To be
committee
fair.
was to ensure that we were keeping our funds local and investing within our community. And the three banks that we were looking at were all local banks.
So Farmers and Merchants Bank, for example, is a local bank. They have branches in our county, and they're little family. They've started from, you know, their roots are from family
I
owned.
appreciate your input, Ms. Davis, but I'm gonna call the
I'm just
I'm
saying,
gonna
there's
call vote to order. Again, this is to vote on option 2. I'm gonna call for a roll call vote to accept option 2. Roll call, please.
Mr. Pig,
Yes,
Mr. Deal,
Yes.
Ms. Stidham,
This is option 2, correct?
option 2, ma'am.
Yes.
Dr. Henry,
Yes.
Ms. Davis.
nope.
Motion carries 4-1. Okay, the next on the agenda of business is to act on to allow the building committee chair to act as the signator for change orders on new building project upon recommendation of the building committee intuitive. This is to ensure that we have timely payments and that we're not holding up the project. All this will be, obviously, everybody will be informed about these at each meeting. I'm sure Steve will be informing everybody of all this each meeting. So this is just to ensure that we're not holding up any of the projects. I don't anticipate a ton of change orders. They are bad, trust me. I don't like change orders at all, but they're gonna happen. So in an effort to ensure that we are keeping the building project moving forward and being expedient in our bill pay, we're requesting this motion or recommendation. So I'm looking for a motion for that at this point in time.
I make a motion to act on the recommendation to allow the building committee chair to act as the signatory for change orders on new building projects upon the recommendation of the building committee.
First, I have a second. All right, first and second, is there any discussion on this motion? Not here.
Just to be clear, who's the chairperson?
That would be me.
Okay.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that all these checks, when we go to sign these big checks, it's gonna be myself and the treasurer signing these checks. I don't think anybody else's signatures, I think we need to be the two to sign it. So if that puts any comfort or not to anybody, it'll be Ms. Stidham and I signing these checks, because they're gonna be pretty healthy ones. The signing on the signature change order means that we'll get that bill later, but any of those checks are gonna be signed this way. You'll still see all the bills, you'll still see everything out in front of everybody, all right? Any other questions, sir?
No.
All right, not hearing any other discussion, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries 5-0. Thank you very much. And I think now we need to go into closed session, correct, Ms.